Her Excellency Ms. Ana Laia Uriarte, Minister of Environment of Chile. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Señora Presidenta.
Madam President, let me express thanks for the difficult work done by the Presidency of the 15th Conference of Parties in facilitating discussion designed to produce the agreements required to conclude this process of negotiation successfully. Climate change has put us all to the test. Multilateralism is now undergoing one of its most important examinations, although we know that the final exam will be a result we present to future generations. The hope placed in us has a key, that is, our capacity to place the global good above legitimate national interests. This means we have to see whether generosity and a look towards the future will triumph over calculation of immediate gains and short-sightedness. I represent Chile, a beautiful country in a corner of South America, which has always maintained, and we repeat this today, that it is neither ethical nor just to forget history or responsibilities. The developed countries have an ethical duty and a debt which they need to pay off, and that is important objectives to reduce emissions, technological transfer, and sufficient financing, which is also predictable and permanent, so that developing countries can get down to the task of adaptation and mitigation. We wish to be clear. This financing must be inclusive for all developing countries. But of course, to be fair, priorities need also to be established. It's also important to note that the developed countries' commitments cannot be an excuse for implementation of measures which impede international trade and thus affect the development of our countries. We also understand, though, that we are all called upon to make greater efforts in combating climate change. This, of course, in conformity with our responsibilities and national capacities. We therefore need a set of instruments which can be used flexibly by countries and the production sector. Chile is a developing country which decisively and courageously has made the transition to consolidated democracy and a system of social protection which is valued by every one of our population. For President Bachelet, climate change has been a priority and an ethical commitment since she took office. When climate change was still seen as a matter of theory and concern for the academic world and social bodies, our government decided to prepare an institutional framework on environmental matters which made it possible to draw up and implement appropriate policies to deal with this enormous challenge. Now, as a country which has legitimate aspirations to development, we have understood that sustainability depends on balanced public policy decisions. We want economic growth. We also want environmental protection. But most of all, we want social equity. The sustainability of development is threatened by climate change. So we just have to ask ourselves what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. We have begun in our country. The Chilean Action Plan, given our situation as a vulnerable country, provides orientation for adaptation. In terms of mitigation, Despite the fact we are responsible for only 0.2% of all emissions, we want to show the effort we've made as a developing country and to say we are prepared to contribute to world mitigation efforts by significantly reducing from our baseline by 20% before the year 2020 with significant funding from national resources. To do this, we have initiated mitigation activities in such important areas as energy efficiency, renewable energy, forestation and reforestation, as well as the conservation of natural forests and improved public transport. We also have a key slogan: Chile neutral carbon agriculture, or carbon neutral agriculture. By this we mean encouraging plantations, bioenergy, energy efficiency, and good practices. As developed countries commit financial support and technology transfer, these activities can be strengthened and made more ambitious, and we shall be able to carry out the efforts we have proposed. Finally, we'd like to say that this international negotiation affects such essential principles as justice and equity, because the destiny of future generations is in our hands. We look forward to an agreement which involves our leaders and helps to mobilize us all towards the great objective of stabilizing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere at levels which will not affect the survival of mankind on this planet. The peoples of the earth are looking forward to a worthy result here in Copenhagen. Allow me to quote our poet, Pablo Neruda, who is known to all. We all live on this earth under the same woods, on the same sand. We cannot fight against autumn or fight against the spring. We have to live on the same waves. They belong to us. They belong to mankind. They belong to children. I hope we won't be incapable of finding the right responses and that this poem is ignored. We need to decide now. We call upon both big and small countries, rich and poor. Let's show determination. Let's put the substance before the form. Time is running out. We want to see the figures. We have already put up our figures without being obliged to do so. We see no other way than to be moved by conviction rather than convenience. Chile will not go home without a proper commitment. We believe that many others will do the same. We trust that. Thank you, Madam President.